Hey guys, I'm Coach Cindy from All Out Training, and I'm here with my online coaching client, Barb. And Barb's going to share a little bit about her journey through our 1-year online coaching program. And today, as we're recording this, we're still not at the 1-year mark yet.
Not quite.
But we're on our way there. So Barb, how old are you?
I am 48.
48. And how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids, 18 and 16.
And married?
Yep.
Yep. Any animals?
Yeah, we live on a small farm. We've got some horses, some sheep.
Nice. And what do you do for a living?
I'm an agronomist, so that's the study of soils and plants, so I help farmers with various crops. I actually work for a chocolate company right now, helping them grow some nuts that we use as a raw material.
Good.
So I'm surrounded by chocolate.
All the time. Yeah, good. And what made you want to kind of jump into a 1-year coaching program?
This honestly was, it came up on Facebook, and this was kind of a last-ditch effort. I thought, you know what, I've tried everything. I'm going to try one more time. And a year sounded like it made the most sense, because everything I've tried before, I would get to the 3-4 month mark and get bored or frustrated or you name it, and I would stop. I would quit. So I thought, you know what, let's do it. Let's do the year, and then hopefully my coach, you, can help me through some of those hurdles. And best decision I ever made.
Oh, good. So you've had previous experiences with losing weight before, and just before, it was just under a year before we had been together, started our coaching program, you had done keto and had a really good success with that. So what happened with that journey there?
Because of my job, I travel a fair bit, and it was difficult to keep that sort of stuff up traveling. I did all right at home. Ended up making 2 meals for everybody, but one for everybody, one for myself. But I did all right on it, but it just wasn't sustainable. Like I said, when you're traveling, your options are limited as it is when you're trying to pick something healthy. I just couldn't keep it up.
And then what happened when you couldn't keep it up? Because there was a lag in time between you ending that and then starting this one.
To be perfectly honest, I gave up. I just gave up, and I thought, you know what? I've just got to accept the fact that I am overweight and out of shape, and it's just going to be this way.
Yeah.
This is. I just have to accept it. This is the way life is, and I'm wasting so much time and energy trying to fight this that just accept it.
And you mentioned hurdles along the way, so that's what enticed you about the 1-year program, is like having a coach to help you through the hurdles. One you said was traveling. What other hurdles were there?
I think the biggest hurdle, honestly, was myself. But having kids, having a family, having a career, having I try to volunteer in the community and participate, and hanging out with friends and whatever. There was just always something that got in the way of starting again. and it was that idea of having to restart all the time. It was just such a burden. And I'm a very all or nothing type of person, so I either did it or it didn't. And having all of those other draws on my time, and not just my physical time, but just even my mental time. There was always something else. There was always something. So I ate to relax. I ate to socialize. I ate to keep going. I ate all the time. Eating was what I felt was all that I had control over. But what I didn't realize until now was that eating was controlling me rather than the other way around. Like I thought I had. It was the only thing that brought me comfort. It was the only thing that brought me energy. It brought me so many things, but it really didn't.
Yeah, well, that was a good realization.
It was
a light bulb moment.
Huge.
Yeah, and then exercise was nil as well, or?
Yeah, I was a huge exerciser when I was, in my early 20s, all through my 20s. And then once I started having kids, your time just changes.
Yeah.
So, I still did a bit of stuff, but again, I was very start and stop, and I'd be all or nothing, and a couple of months, and then I'd stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, then lately, my kids had sports, so we were on the road all the time, and high school sports, organized community sports, whatever, all of their activities. We were just go, 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 and I travel. It was just go, go, go. So no, recently,
Yeah.
if I was
Yeah.
lucky if I got out for a walk.
Yeah, and just as a side note, in the beginning you had a hard time because you saw yourself as an athlete because you were
I knew there was one in there somewhere.
yeah, and so you struggled with how does exercise fit in because now I don't know if I am this athlete was
Yeah.
kind of the struggle that you were.
I thought those days were gone.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. And so, like, what we always talk about is your why. So, most people think it's like, I just need to lose weight, and if I lose weight, then I'll just feel happier, I'll feel better. And what I like to do is look at why, go at a deeper level, like, why is a journey like this, or why is weight loss really important? So, you've had time to uncover your whys. What did you come up with?
And you know what? It changes. I find it changes.
Fair.
And part of the program too, that you always ask why to your why question. Even you go several layers in, and initially my why was just to try to get some semblance of a life back for myself. That sounds very broad, but I was struggling with. I could hardly move. I mean, I wasn't crazy overweight, but just, I was so stiff. My body chemistry was just all out of whack. So I just needed to get some sense of normalcy, I guess. But then the whys kept changing as the weight kept dropping. My whys kept changing because all of a sudden then I could do things with my kids that I couldn't do before. I could go back outside and run around with the dog or go to the garden, whatever. I could physically move. Mentally, I was so much lighter. So the why kept changing. But today, my why, honestly, is to prevent illness as much as I can.
Yep.
I'm terribly afraid of diabetes, things like that. I want to stay healthy. And another silly one, I want to be able to carry my own groceries.
Yep.
And I don't want to fall on the ice, and I just don't want to be old.
Yeah.
But I want to try to maintain as much health as I can so I can take care of myself. I don't want to be a burden to my family. I want to be able to enjoy my family.
Yeah.
Enjoy myself, enjoy life, enjoy my family.
Yeah.
That's my why anymore.
Good. So let's start from the very beginning. You signed up. We didn't know each other. We hadn't met. This is a brand new concept of a program. Like, I'm asking you, what do you want to eat? How do you feel about that? Versus, here's your meal plan. Eat this way. Don't deviate from the plan. So how was that initial first setup?
I was, and you can attest to this, was so resistant. I first, the first few lessons were like, okay, well, I don't know that this is going to work, but yeah, sure, okay, let's go through the lessons. And then, and then it came to meal plan time, and I was so proud of this clean eating week I'd had, and then you had made some comments on my, just the categories and such where food fit, and I threw a fit. I was like, I had a tantrum. I'm like, I can't, this is crazy. Whether a carrot's a vegetable or a carb, who cares? I ate a carrot.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten this many vegetables in months. I was extremely resistant. And then I just kind of thought, well, whatever happens. I just kind of, and then as the lessons changed and we just went through the food groups, through the macros, as opposed to, here's the whole plan.
Right.
It just organically evolved into this is how I eat.
Yeah,
it was
because
awesome.
Initially when you submitted the meal plan, it was very clean, and our discussion was about, you initially had said you really love muffin tops, and I didn't see a muffin top on the menu, so I was like, well, are you eating the muffin tops or not? And your challenge to me was, well, why would I put muffin tops on here when I'm trying to lose weight? Because this is real life. If you really like muffin tops, let's figure out, where they fit and how to make it work, right? Yeah, and so you had a little bit of resistance with that because you thought clean eating was the only way I was going to do that. And here you were sitting with a coach that was like, where are the muffin tops? Like
that, and so it was the food, and then it was also, there was no exercise. There was no go exercise, and anything I'd done. Yes, I'd tried different eating plans, but it was always about working out like a fiend.
Right.
That wasn't part of it either. So I thought, there's no way this is going to work, and I kind of wrote it off. But as the lessons progressed, Yeah, and you keep eating the way you're eating, but you just make sure then you add your proteins.
Right.
And then it just evolved very organically, and it worked.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of my clients start off with, let's say, the muffin top example, that they really like the muffin tops, they really want to continue eating them or what have you. And then as things evolve and change, they're like, I really don't, I've never asked myself if I like the muffin tops. I just thought,
what is it about this?
Yeah.
It's just food.
You know, and then your taste buds just kind of change too.
Yep.
And the reason why exercise wasn't added in was because there was a bit of resistance there, because you were fighting with your inner athlete and figuring out, can I get back there? And you were so stiff in your body. So we just said, let's just focus on this right now. Yeah, but that changed as well.
Yeah.
How did that change?
Yeah. Once I got going with the food, like I said, you add your proteins and you add your vegetables, and it just went so smoothly, and things were working. I was feeling better, and then you suggested yoga, and I thought yoga was slow and boring in previous attempts, but I did it, and loved it. I could hardly move through the first few practices. There were a couple poses. I thought, oh my God, I am old and this is never going to work. But it made all the difference. This whole journey for me I thought it was about weight loss, and it is, but it was about so much up here that it's made tremendous difference.
Because when we had first started out the journey, the reason why I suggested yoga was because we were in a negative headspace about life, about like our own self and our self-worth.
I was angry that I couldn't eat what everybody else was eating, and I just wanted this little bit of food to help me get through a day, and I was angry that I couldn't do that. There was an element of anger there. Anger, frustration, the whole bit. Why does this have to be such a struggle? Why does this have to be such a fight?
Because the part of that resistance goes back to what you just said in the beginning, was you thought you controlled food, but you were starting to realize, okay, maybe this isn't true here.
Yeah.
And you were angry because you were trying to find your voice as well. Like you had suppressed a lot of feelings and emotions and thoughts to yourself and didn't have a way of vocalizing it because you were angry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because as a parent, with a career, whatever, what have you, you just have to keep going sometimes. There's no time to think, there's no time to feel, you just have to keep going because there's demands on your time and you just keep going. And that translated into some pretty negative stuff.
Yeah. But you started off with yoga and then you started including more exercise. Yeah. So tell us about that.
Actually, even at the beginning, it was just walking and yoga. That's all I did for a few months. Yoga and walking, and a good 5-6K walk 3 or 4 times a week, and yoga, and the mental weight that was lifted was huge. And then when I started to feel like I could move again, I added just some old videos that I dug out that again I had worked out like a fiend to in the past, but I took my time with them this time, and if I caught myself in that all or nothing thinking again, then I could just pull back, and being consistent with it was probably my biggest challenge, still is my biggest challenge, but I'm much more comfortable doing it now than I was, and I'm ready for new challenges. I've signed up for one of those obstacle course races.
She has, and a professional photo shoot too.
Don't having my picture taken, but we're gonna do it.
So most people think that you have to spend a lot of time in the gym working out, and you have to spend a lot of time saying no to foods that you enjoy and not feeling like a normal eater. But you've lost how much weight?
All total, I've lost 55 pounds. On the program, I've lost almost 40.
Mm-hmm. And you keep kind of losing there, and you've integrated it into real life. It doesn't feel like you're on a diet or anything. So what do you have to say to those people who say, like, I just don't have time to commit to hours at the gym, and I can't say no to my favorite foods, and feeling like I'm ostracized at the dinner table?
Yep. I had those initial feelings too, but like I said, I started out with just yoga and walking as far as exercise, and then eating became more of a decision as opposed to a reaction. And you said to me once to be the thermostat rather than
thermometer.
So I started saying, okay, no, this is about me. I matter, and I'm going to decide what goes in my body rather than just at the whims of whoever. So I still eat what I want, but I plan around it. If I know that I'm going out for dinner with friends or whatever, or we have a family dinner, I generally know what I'll probably choose because that's the food I like. So then I plan the rest of my day accordingly. So sometimes it looks like I'm only eating spinach for breakfast, but I'm saving up a few things for supper. But that works for me. I'm able to make that work.
Yeah, and still feel like family dinners can still be included, social events can still be
still
included.
enjoy a good old-fashioned turkey dinner, and I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything.
Yeah. So one of the hurdles that we worked through together, one of the first ones, was traveling. You were going to Europe, and it was there was a couple of hurdles that we needed to work through.
And this was for work, not for fun.
Yeah. So it was the travel schedule, and then you mostly work with men who also like to dine out, and so it was how to negotiate that kind of experience too. So how did we work together through those kind of hurdles in the beginning?
Just packing running shoes was a big first step. Just even if I didn't get time to actually use them, they were still in my bag, and it just was a little reminder to stay on track. And I would just do body weight stuff in my room. I wouldn't necessarily have to go down to the gym. And then as far as food, it's a little more challenging when you're traveling because you don't have the same control over what you want to eat. And when I'm traveling by myself for work, I go to the grocery store and then I just buy a veggie tray and what have you. But when I'm traveling with people, and it's usually guys, and there's usually a few drinks involved too after, before dinner or whatever. So it was a little more challenging, but we just worked through how to include some of the different macros, some trade-offs, some maybe some, I don't want to say lower calorie, but some different options that might fit in that same food group, but you could have a little more than something else. So it was certainly a learning process.
Yeah.
And there was some trial and error involved.
Yeah, but we learned, and then the next time you traveled, you already had those skills in place, and you were even like 1% better than you were the last time.
Yeah, that was a really good lesson too. Just a little bit better, even meal by meal, day by day, just being in the now and saying, okay, what can I choose right now that's maybe just a bit better?
Yeah.
Yep.
The other hurdle you had was you spent a week at a family cottage, and you had some food pushers around you, some people that not necessarily live the fittest lifestyle, but with all their love and care just want to feed you. So that was the second hurdle that we had. So how did that?
That took, that called on all of my inner strength. Because I love food. I love food. And you can plan for, 1 or 2 meals that are maybe a little heavier. But when it's every meal and there's snacks all the time, and the cottage is supposed to be relaxing and fun, but I found that the more time I spent down at the water with my kids, it just removed myself from the situation, or out on the porch with a book. So I just had to find new activities. And I'm an introvert anyway, so sometimes in social situations, I just eat to fill space. So accepting that I'm an introvert and that it's okay to go away and read sometimes or have some alone time, that was a big piece of it too. So
and it was about you being the thermostat.
Yeah, and I had to learn how to say no.
Yeah,
which isn't always easy either.
No, it's not, especially if you're a people kind of pleasing personality. It's harder. Yep. So describe kind of what 1 year of coaching looks like. Like, again, this is our first time meeting in person. Everything's done remotely. It's totally different than a Facebook accountability group or a challenge group. So describe what it looks like to somebody who's like, what is this?
Yeah, I was anxious about it being online because I thought, I'm never gonna, this person isn't gonna know me. They're not gonna know what I need and don't need and how I think and how I work. And to a large extent, I suppose that's true at the beginning. But the work was about me. It was about me. It was about me working on me. And you're there as a coach, not as my therapist, not as my personal assistant, not as any of that stuff. So when I accepted that it was within my power to do the work, but B, I was the one that was going to have to do the work, it fell into place.
Yeah.
So yes, there was resistance at the beginning, and I had to work through some things. But then it just started to evolve, and it was all making sense. And I have a science background, so all of the lessons, when we got into some of the biochemistry and physiology, it all made sense. It was all things that I had read before, but it just pulled it together in such a succinct and meaningful way. It didn't overload. There were a couple lessons that really make you think, and so they were a little heavier, but it was amazing to me how each habit just built on the previous one, and you just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and one foot at a time, and
it wasn't like 365 degrees of changes all at once. It was like what you said, one thing, and incrementally building on one another, and giving you the know-how, the whys behind what we're doing as well. And my job as a coach was, once you responded to lessons or whatever, was to see what's Barb really thinking here or feeling here, and then call you out on it. In the sense, I'm asking you questions to go a little bit deeper. And then some of them, you were good at saying, I just need a little bit of time to think this one through.
I'm a thinker. I got to think it through. But even then, the next day's lesson would help me go a little further into it, and then a little further, and then you start to put some things together, and then you have those aha moments. And
so what was your biggest aha moment?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I know at the beginning, there was one lesson that talked about, does this add value? And it didn't necessarily just mean food. It meant behaviors and actions and activities and you name it. Does this, whatever this is, add value to my life? And that was a really, really big one. And then another big one was, you don't have to go 0 to 100. You can go 0 to 5, and then maybe next day is just 6, and then maybe you drop back to 3, and then you're back to 10. It doesn't have to be 0 to 100 all the time. That was probably, and this idea that I'm an all or nothing type, that was probably, those two things were probably the biggest.
And that's the common thread from clients that reach out, is all or nothing. You're either doing a bunch of stuff all at one time until you can't manage that because life comes in the way, and then you're doing a whole bunch of nothing, and the pendulum is constantly swinging. So the program is really about, well, how can those two things meet in the middle? How can you do a little bit better? And you have what's dial up, and you have dial down, or ramp up, ramp down, but you're always maintaining the middle versus this big pendulum swing, which is kind of what you were used to before, was keto hardcore, or like this all core, and then working out hardcore.
Or it's Monday, it's time to start over again. Like it's time to try this again. So I'm over that. It's Monday stuff.
So the biggest, so yes, she's had like a major physical transformation, but the biggest thing was when we talk on the phone, or even through your writing in the lessons, there is a complete 360 in terms of the energy that you put forth, or the aura that you exude now in comparison. So you explained about being angry and resistant in the beginning, but I feel like as a coach watching you, like the transformation wasn't just physical, which is what I think we all want, is that life for you as a person changed.
I got my life back. I feel like the real me is back. I was hidden under layers, literally and figuratively. And so the emotional lightness that I've gained is something I didn't expect, and has been
and not
everything.
Something that was part of other experiences that you've had.
Everything else is about what you can't eat. This is about what you can eat and what you can do. It's not restrictive. I haven't found it restrictive at all.
And then what have others around you said about the changes that they've seen?
Well, I think the nicest one I got was a few weeks ago when somebody told me that I look 10 years younger, which, thank you. Even at work, I because I'm not at the factory all the time, just because of travel and what have you. A lot of people there, they do a double take. They don't even know it's me. Because I've lost physically lost a quarter of myself. And then I think there is totally different energy. So people pick up on it.
Yeah, the kids picked up on it.
Definitely. Yeah, my son and I have a completely different relationship now, which is for the positive. And yeah, just in general, my entire family notices the difference. I think they're waiting to make sure that I can sustain this because they've watched me do this.
Mm-hmm.
They've watched me go through this.
The difference is they're watching you enjoy it this time.
Yeah, the energy about this one is different.
Yeah.
The energy about this one is different. I'm just yeah.
So talk about sustaining it then. Your year's going to be up, so then how do you see this moving forward?
Planning for me. Planning is the key. Planning is the key. If I can, and that means regular grocery shopping, and I don't plan, like I don't make 5 meals on Sunday for the week. I don't do that kind of thing. I mean, I don't have to either, but if that's the kind of planning you do, that's fine. But for me, I just plan. I have a few basic go-tos for breakfast, for lunch, and then I just mix it up from there. So but planning is the key. Just regular grocery shopping, knowing that I've got that healthy stuff in the fridge, and packing. I pack celery sticks, I pack almonds, what have you, so that when I am out, I'm not forced to just eat whatever.
Right.
And I've recognized the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger.
Oh, talk about that.
Yeah, that was so packing food when I'm out, if I do feel physical hunger, I'm good. But yeah, emotional hunger versus physical hunger, completely different. At the beginning, that was a tough one because I was just so used to eating all the time. I was never physically hungry. I didn't feel like I ever had those physical hunger cues. I didn't know what that meant. So that took some time but it took a lot of just sitting with yourself. And I don't mean like you have to just sit with yourself, just wherever you are, just an awareness of yourself and what you're feeling. And eventually I learned those cues. So it's not just your stomach all the time. Sometimes it's lightheaded, what have you. But I learned the difference between that and being bored, being lonely, being angry, being happy, being what have you. And that made a world of difference. So it's just food. At the end of the day, it's just food. Food is fuel. Food isn't going to fix my loneliness. Food isn't going to fix my anger. Food isn't going to make me any happier. It's just food.
And the judgment you put on food is often worse than the choice that you're making. Because it just snowballs into that all or nothing thinking.
So if I want a piece of cheese, I now eat really good cheese and I only need a little bit and it's awesome. Yeah. But I eat it and I enjoy it. I taste it and I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So I got away from that whole mindless eating thing too. Just cramming food in my face and then 10 minutes later going, oh my God, I just ate a whole row of cookies and didn't even taste one of them.
Right.
So
and going back to the physical hunger too is most people identify it to the extreme to when you're at that hangry stage.
Right.
And so we ran an experiment to see, well, what signals does your body send you before you get to the hangry stage so that we can address it then versus being this ravenous person.
Yeah. And because I ate so much all the time, I just ate all the time, I never had a chance to feel that. So through some of the experiments that you do through the program, you get that opportunity to go, oh, and journaling, writing down, tracking what I eat, but not just tracking what you eat, tracking what you're feeling when you eat, tracking what you're feeling between what you eat. Mm-hmm. Just that mind-body awareness, that mind-body connection was significant.
Yeah. And you talked about going from mindless eating to being a mindful eater. And the first lesson that you learn is eating slow. Yeah. So talk about that. It's called an anchor habit. It's the one that carries you through the whole year. Yeah. Talk about that anchor habit of eating slow.
Initially, because I've been the type that you just go. And I was one of those that you get praised for being busy. So you just did everything fast. So trying to sit down and eat slowly was extremely difficult and probably didn't help my resistance. I'm like, what is this eating slow? Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous.
Just tell me what to eat.
I'm just going to eat. Like what? Yeah. So traveling, probably that was another point where that became really helpful because I couldn't necessarily control what's on the menu or what my options were, or, you know, the salad's going to come with candied pecans and I didn't want to ask for everything off again. So just going, you know what, it's okay. It's one meal, it's one thing, and just slow down, enjoy what's here. And then 9 times out of 10, you don't finish it because you reach that full point and you're good. So slowing down was a real mental game for me. And it was a game, like it was a challenge to slow down. But it goes beyond even just my eating. People say, maybe here you think I'm talking really fast, and I am a fast talker, but I don't talk near as fast as I used to.
You don't.
No,
You don't.
I used to be nobody, I was just anxious all the time. So that slowing down to eat turned into slowing down so many other parts of my life. It's just been...
Yeah, and you're right. When you're used to like, eat this, don't eat that, do this, don't do that, then you're presented with eat slow, and you're like a family, and you're busy, you're on the go. Your validation comes from being busy. The busier I am, the more important I am, or the more things that. So then here you are eating slow, that you kind of dismiss the value in that because it's like, this doesn't fit the way I currently live my life, and how do I get that time? But when you do, you realize, well, I don't have to eat everything. I can tune into my body and notice like, hey, I'm feeling full right now. I don't need to eat anymore.
Yep. So, and initially too, I thought though, how, because it's the first lesson, like you said, it's the anchor, one of the anchors. I thought, how is this? I'm supposed to be losing weight. How is eating slow when I'm still eating the same crap? How is this? Yeah.
Yes, if you go back to your cookie analogy, when you're eating cookies and then all of a sudden you don't even realize, I didn't taste one, I just ate it so fast. If you're eating the cookies slow, you're able to taste it. And the goal or the hope would be that you would end faster, you wouldn't eat as many because you're tuning into how it feels and how it tastes in your body.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I went from eating 12 cookies to maybe only eating 6 and then 3. And yeah, now I'm good with 1. Sometimes I still have 2 or 3. If I'm having a nice cup of coffee and I'm chilling, that's good. But yeah, it's just completely changed the context.
And I'm like you too, where you said, I just choose really fine cheese, and I'm like that with chocolate, for example. It's like Bulk Barn isn't the best anymore for me. It's like I want decadent like chocolate now, and yes, I'm going to pay more, but that's going to satisfy way more than the mass-produced kind of chocolate now.
I eat chocolate every day. I didn't do that before when I was heavy, but I do now. I have a single square of dark chocolate every day. It's my favorite. It's my go-to. Yeah.
And during the course of the year, we've gone through like summer vacation, we've gone through Thanksgiving, we've gone through Christmas, New Year's, birthday celebrations, outings, and all that. So that's the advantage of having a coach kind of through that. Whereas personal training, for example, let's say that was an avenue you pursued, you would be just with the trainer for that 1 hour once to twice, maybe 3 times a week, but we're not navigating those different circumstances in between. Likewise, if you had a gym membership, so can you explain kind of like that's the difference between having a coach 365 days a year across all those things that happen in the year?
Yeah, to me, it goes to the emotional part, the mental part. A personal trainer helps you with the physical, and sure, they'll do a menu plan for you. But then you become a slave to that menu, and it makes other events challenging. But yeah, when you're on this program, you have a lesson comes in your inbox every day, which helps keep you on track, gives you something new to think about, to work on, and then you have a coach that you can call, you can email, you can through the lessons you work through a few things. Having that, like you said earlier, to call me out on some things was huge. So it was beyond just being accountable. It was, you had somebody there to help you work through the hurdles rather than yell, not yell, but point at you. Did you do it? Did you do it? You didn't do it. Come on.
Yeah.
It was, well, why? And well, what can we work on? And how can we do that 1% increment, that kind of thing. It was,
Or it's like, you know, working through, well, what was the obstacle to completing it? Let's see if we can, you know, break this down to eventually get to that place.
Yep.
Right? Because the meal plan was one, and it was like, okay, well, let's look at how can we simplify this a bit more so that we can get you to the end goal of being 1% better. That way. And working through with a coach for 1 year who's asking you the questions and holding you accountable. But like you said in the beginning, I'm working on me, like I'm doing the work, I'm figuring out who I am, where I fit, and what I want, being that thermostat setting. That's kind of the goal, is once you're done the year, is we've set you up for that, to have the skill set, the know-how, you know, the drive, the tools to kind of do that.
Yep. Because at the end of the day, I've relearned, I guess, that I control what goes in my mouth, but I also control what I think, and I still think all kinds of crazy stuff. That's just who we are. We're humans. But now it's that ability to step back and go, wait a second. A, does this kind of thing add value? B, it's just a feeling. C, it's just food. I don't know. I just don't take things near as seriously as I used to. And having this year-long program and having access to a coach to kind of walk you through those things. You know, I've had days where I'm like, I am just fed up, I'm done, but you just keep asking questions, and it forces me to just say, wait a second, let's turn this around and let's look at this again. Yeah,
because one of them recently was the photo shoot.
Yeah.
I hate photos, I've never liked photos, and so it was working to say, like, well, is this new person now, do we want to carry that same story with us into this new person that we're at, right? Because you were very resistant.
Very.
Yeah, and not that anybody needs to, but that was just presented as an option. Do you want to capture the transformation, the aura that you have, the energy, whether that's with your family or on your own? Do you want to do that? And you were, again, kind of, because your old self was like, I hate pictures.
Not doing it. Not doing it.
Yeah. And here you are kind of embracing, you stepped back, like through kind of exploratory work, you kind of stepped back and you were like, okay, well, why is this story still showing up? Am I still that person? Am I somebody else? What story do I want to bring with me? And it was the same thing with signing up for the mud run. Resistance, and then it was like, okay, well, you know, like, how does this story add value? How, you know, what kind of story do we want to create? And so then all of a sudden, you did it.
And there was a couple weeks of lessons about media and images that we're presented with through fitness magazines or whatever. And as you go through this journey, you do want to, you're more interested in fitness and such, so you're picking up these magazines. And I consider myself a fairly smart, well-educated person, can separate out what's fake and what's real. But there were a couple of weeks of lessons where it really forced you to look at some of those images and recognize that, no, that's airbrushed, or that's not necessarily the full picture. And then
or even looking at the diets too, you're like, well, that's why that works,
right,
or doesn't.
And then when I was forced to think about having my own picture taken, and knowing in the past that I was so critical of myself, it just forced you to say, wait a second, it's just a picture. It's no big deal. It's just a picture. It's no big deal. So, yeah, here we are.
Good. And in terms of the program, is really like 5, maybe 8 minutes in the morning, or whenever you decided to practice your habit. Basically, the email comes in. You can either listen or read to it, and then sometimes there's questions, or sometimes the question is, did you do your habit or did you not? My job as a coach is, if I see that, you know, you've spent a couple of days saying, no, I haven't achieved this goal, then we jump on a call, or I say, hey, what's going on, so that we can break it down. And then every time you answer questions to the lesson, you're reflecting on the lesson and, you know, showing me kind of what you've learned. Then that's my opportunity to kind of jump in as a coach and look at, okay, this sounds great, you're doing awesome, or ask you some additional questions to go a little bit further, or set up an experiment kind of, or a challenge week, so that we can like challenge kind of where our thinking is around that. So really the investment in time isn't a lot.
No. And the investment in time is small, but like actual time going through the lessons and whatnot, but the time spent thinking about it, it was a positive message to be chewing on for the day. So it was always it always set me up for something, and it doesn't, that's not saying that I didn't have to deal with some negative stuff as I was chewing through it, but there was a positive outcome. I knew there would be a positive outcome once I got to the end of it, and it may have taken 2 or 3 days, like you said, for me to answer some of the questions in the lessons, but I was always thinking about it and working through things, and it was always beneficial.
And in all reality, pre-program, you were thinking about it, but you were thinking about it about, why can't I do this?
Yeah, the context was completely different.
Yeah, you were having negative thoughts about food, exercise, or your body all the time. And, we just did an experiment in one of our other groups, and that was 15 thoughts in one day the client had calculated times 365 days out of the year. So now you're just flipping the script and thinking about the right stuff that's actually going to transition into change versus thinking about, the constant obstacles, the constant struggles, the constant challenge. Would you agree?
Yeah. Up until this point, everything was reactive. And I was a huge planner, but then life happens and everything was just reactive. Everything was reactive, rightly or wrongly. And then working through the program, now things are more, I do feel like I'm in more control. I make more decisions. I'm much more flexible. Now I'm back to planning, but I'm much more flexible with my plan. So it's...
So you're probably more confident in the decisions that you're making versus should I, shouldn't I, is this right?
Things don't feel like the fight that they used to feel like. Yeah. I get to decide.
Yeah.
I didn't get to decide everything. We don't get to decide everything, but I would say 8 out of 10 things in a day I get to decide.
Yeah.
And it comes down to choice. Between every action and reaction, there's a choice. I think that's Stephen Covey. But it's very true.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it.
And to the person listening to this who says, yeah, but I'm different. I'm the exception to the rule. I'm not like her.
That was part of my initial resistance in this whole online, this idea of doing it online. How is this person going to get to know me? They don't know me. I've got my own set of circumstances and my own issues, and there's no way this is going to work. I was floored at how, as we work through the lessons, and you've accepted one new habit or something, and you're ready to move on, and everything just fit with exactly what I was dealing with next. I was amazed at how, there's a ton of research put into this program, and it was fantastic the way everything fit together.
Yeah.
It just evolved so organically. It was fantastic.
Would it have worked the same without a coach if I just gave you the lessons you did on your own?
No. We were talking about accountability, and at the end of the day, it's still me that has to do it. But as I can think about something one way and I can write it down and the lessons answer it. But then when you read it and look at it and challenge me in a slightly different way, it forced me to think about it again. And then sometimes that is like when you ask why to the why, it was like that. And it forces you to go a little bit deeper and really get to the root of it. So no, having you, it wasn't accountability, but it was just another set of eyes even. Just almost like another little angel on my shoulder. Just
I'm the angel.
Yeah,
I probably was the devil when I first started.
But just that other set of eyes, that other positive, like you've got this, or just a little bit of, and actually the anonymity probably worked out to be a good thing because you didn't know my baggage, you didn't know my circumstances, you were able to come at this completely objectively, which was actually probably the best way to do it.
And you let me in a little bit as we go along, which is kind of important as well, right? Because then we start to see how the puzzle fits, how everything fits together. So, but
that was probably a challenge for you as a coach because I'm not a super open book. So it's probably a bit of a challenge for you too.
Right, and trying to piece it together and then
who is this person?
Figure out where things were coming from, right? So so just last thing is what would you say to someone who's like, I want to get started, I don't know how, or I've tried so many times. What do you?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that question because everybody has their own journey, and as I was going through these lessons, and like I said, I've read a lot of this stuff. Nothing was really new, but it pulled it all together. So had I not done some of those other things, I might not be in the position I am right now and be as receptive to this as I turned out to be.
You mean other things, meaning like all the other diets?
And other exercise programs and all that stuff. So, life presents things to you and you take it or leave it. But I can't say enough about this program. The food part in particular, the way the lessons came together. And like I said, I was resistant at the beginning because it wasn't moving fast enough for what I expected, what I thought. But the way it built your food choices in, it just happened so effortlessly, so seamlessly, that I look back at that and I go, wow, they got me, and I didn't even know it. It was pretty cool. So yes, there's the slow eating and the mindful eating and all of that, but once we got into the food groups, that was probably what, 8 weeks?
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and which means food groups is like we break down proteins and why proteins are important, how they work in the body, what are proteins, how much
So
to
you
eat.
spend 2 weeks just making sure you get the right number of proteins and figuring out what a serving of protein is and what different sources of protein there are. And I wasn't getting near enough protein. So, we spent 2 weeks on that, and then 2 weeks on vegetables. And it just happened, like I said, so seamlessly that I didn't even realize I was making the changes I was making.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So here's Barb, a busy professional, travels a lot for a job in a male-dominated kind of industry. She's married, has pets, a little farm, has kids, and here she is. And she had tried everything, and like you heard her say right at the beginning, this is kind of her last-ditch effort. And what is this online coaching thing?
And I'm not a techie. I'm not online. I don't do a lot of that stuff. So I was really resistant to this.
Yeah. So she is your everyday kind of woman who kind of went through this, and we worked through kind of the layers of resistance to get to kind of who you see and who you hear sitting here today. And she's not done her journey yet, and she's loving yoga, and she works out at home now.
Yep.
Yeah, and she signed up for her first mud run too.
Yeah.
And tell everybody about your New Year's resolution for 2020.
Rather than make a resolution per se, I decided that I wanted to try to get, over the course of the year, 1,000 hours of activity, preferably outdoors. So even if I'm just outside for a walk, or if I'm doing my half-hour exercise video, or even if I'm just sitting outside watching the birds, having my coffee, it all counts as outside time. And hopefully by the end of this year, I have 1,000 hours outside. I'm getting my time outside, but I'm looking forward to some long summer days.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Coach Cindy from Olive Training. This is Barb. Thanks for joining us and hearing about Barb's journey and her story.
Good luck.